The psychology behind why some people command instant respect. Introduction. The mystery of instant respect. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to command respect the moment they walk into a room? They do not introduce themselves with a list of achievements. They do not demand attention. They do not speak louder than everyone else. Yet somehow, people listen. People make space for them. People take their opinions seriously. It can feel almost mysterious, as if they possess something invisible that others do not. Most people assume the answer is status, money, power, attractiveness, job titles. While those factors can influence perception, they do not fully explain the phenomenon. Everyone has met a person with impressive credentials who commands very little respect. And almost everyone has met someone with no obvious status who somehow earns respect immediately. This tells us something important. Respect is not merely a reaction to external success. It is often a reaction to psychological signals. Signals people communicate without even realizing it. The human brain constantly evaluates others. Within seconds of meeting someone, we unconsciously ask questions such as, is this person confident? Is this person trustworthy? Is this person emotionally stable? Is this person comfortable with themselves? Is this person a leader or a follower? Most of these judgments occur automatically, long before logic enters the picture. This is why first impressions feel so powerful. They are not always accurate, but they are influential. The people who command instant respect understand this consciously or unconsciously. They communicate certainty before they communicate competence. They project calmness before they project intelligence. They display self-respect before they ask others to respect them. And people respond. Not because they are being manipulated. Because human psychology is designed to respond to confidence, stability, and clarity. One of the biggest myths about respect is that it must be earned over years. Long-term respect certainly requires character. But initial respect operates differently. Initial respect is often granted based on perception. People decide how seriously to take you before they know your story. Before they know your accomplishments. Before they know your capabilities. This reality may seem unfair, but understanding it gives you an advantage. Because once you understand the psychology behind respect, you stop chasing it. And something fascinating happens. You begin creating the conditions that naturally attract it. This book is not about tricks. It is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It is not about dominating others. True respect cannot be manipulated. Temporary admiration can. Real respect cannot. Instead, this book explores the deeper psychological principles that cause some individuals to stand out immediately. You will discover why confidence is contagious, why calmness often beats charisma, why emotional control creates authority, why boundaries earn respect, why approval-seeking destroys influence, why self-respect changes how people treat you. Most importantly, you will learn that the people who command instant respect are rarely trying to command respect at all. They simply possess qualities that make respect a natural response. By the end of this book, you may discover that respect has far less to do with what others think of you and far more to do with what you think of yourself. Because perhaps the greatest secret of all is this: the people who receive the most respect are often the people who need it the least. And that is where our journey begins. Chapter 1. Respect is a psychological signal, not a reward. Most people believe respect works like a reward. They think respect is something you receive after proving yourself, after enough achievements, after enough success, after enough years of experience. While this is partly true for long-term respect, it does not explain why some people receive respect instantly. Think about it. How can someone earn respect from strangers who know nothing about them? How can a person walk into a room and immediately command attention before speaking a single word? The answer is simple. Initial respect is not earned. It is perceived. Human beings make rapid judgments. Within seconds of meeting someone, the brain begins answering important questions. Questions such as, is this person confident? Is this person trustworthy? Is this person competent? Is this person emotionally stable? Is this person a leader? These evaluations happen automatically, long before conscious reasoning begins. And these evaluations influence how much respect people offer. The brain's need for quick judgments. Our ancestors did not have hours to analyze every new person they encountered. They needed fast assessments. Friend or enemy? Safe or dangerous? Leader or follower? Reliable or unreliable? The human brain evolved to make quick decisions. That system still operates today. Except now it functions in offices, classrooms, meetings, social gatherings, and everyday conversations. The moment people meet you, they begin looking for clues. Not necessarily about who you are, but about how you see yourself. Because self-perception often predicts behavior. Respect begins with signals. Imagine two people entering a meeting. The first person appears nervous. They avoid eye contact. They hesitate before speaking. They apologize repeatedly. They constantly seek validation. The second person enters calmly. They make comfortable eye contact. They sit with relaxed posture. They speak clearly and deliberately. Who receives more respect initially? Most people choose the second person. Not because they know more. Not because they have accomplished more. Because they communicate different signals. The brain responds to those signals automatically. Why confidence creates respect? One reason confidence attracts respect is because confidence reduces uncertainty. Human beings dislike uncertainty. We naturally trust people who appear certain about themselves. This does not mean arrogance. Arrogance says, I am better than you. Confidence says, I am comfortable with myself. The difference is enormous. People often dislike arrogance, but they are naturally drawn toward confidence. Because confidence signals stability, and stability creates trust. The leadership instinct. Throughout history, groups have always looked for leaders. Not necessarily formal leaders. Psychological leaders. People who remain calm during uncertainty. People who appear emotionally grounded. People who seem capable of handling pressure. This instinct remains deeply embedded in human psychology. Whenever people encounter uncertainty, they unconsciously search for signs of stability. The person who appears most grounded often receives the most respect, even before proving competence. This is why emotional control is so powerful. People trust calmness, respect, and self-respect. One of the most overlooked truths about respect is this: people often treat you the way you appear to treat yourself. If you constantly doubt yourself, apologize unnecessarily, minimize your opinions, seek permission to exist, others notice. Not consciously, psychologically, your behavior communicates, I am unsure of my own value. And people respond accordingly. On the other hand, when you communicate self-respect, others often mirror it. Self-respect is contagious. So is self-doubt. Why approval seeking destroys respect? Many people spend their lives chasing respect. Ironically, this often pushes respect away. Why? Because the desire for approval communicates dependence. The hidden message becomes, my value depends on your opinion. People sense this. And dependence rarely inspires respect. The individuals who command instant respect usually operate differently. They appreciate approval, but they do not depend on it. Their self-worth exists independently of other people's reactions. That independence creates strength. And strength attracts respect. Competence matters later. This chapter does not suggest that competence is unimportant. Competence is essential. Over time, respect must be supported by character, integrity, and skill. Eventually people discover who you really are. And reality replaces perception. But before that happens, perception leads. First impressions create opportunities. or close them. Understanding this helps explain why some people command attention before demonstrating expertise. The brain responds to signals first. Evidence comes later. The respect illusion. One reason people misunderstand respect is because they confuse it with popularity. These are not the same thing. Popularity is often based on likability. Respect is often based on trust. Someone can be popular but not respected. Someone can be respected but not popular. The most respected individuals are not necessarily the most entertaining. They are often the most consistent, the most grounded, the most reliable, the most emotionally stable. People trust what feels stable, and trust is the foundation of respect. The power of internal certainty. Perhaps the strongest respect signal is internal certainty. Not certainty that you are always right. Certainty that you can handle being wrong. Certainty that you can survive criticism. Certainty that you do not need everyone's approval. This kind of certainty changes how people perceive you, because it creates emotional stability. And emotional stability is rare, especially in a world where many people constantly seek validation. The first rule of respect. If there is one lesson to take from this chapter, it is this: respect is not something you chase. It is something you communicate. You communicate it through confidence, emotional control, self-respect, calmness, boundaries, authenticity. People respond to these signals instinctively, often before they know anything else about you. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: the people who command instant respect are rarely demanding it. They simply communicate, through their behavior, that they already respect themselves. And others naturally follow their lead. In the next chapter, we will explore one of the strongest respect signals in human psychology: the confidence people can feel before you ever say a word. Chapter 2. The confidence people can feel. Have you ever met someone who seemed confident before they even spoke? They entered a room, sat down, looked around calmly, and somehow, people immediately paid attention. No impressive introduction. No dramatic display of authority. No attempt to dominate. Yet their presence felt different. Most people describe this as confidence. But what exactly is confidence? And why does it have such a powerful effect on respect? The answer lies deep within human psychology. Because confidence is more than a personality trait. It is a signal. And human beings are constantly responding to it. Confidence is emotional certainty. Many people think confidence means believing you are exceptional. It does not. True confidence is much simpler. Confidence is the belief that you can handle what happens next. Notice the difference. Arrogance says, "I know I will succeed." Confidence says, "Even if I fail, I will be okay." This distinction matters, because confidence is not built on perfection. It is built on resilience. People who command instant respect are rarely those who believe they are flawless. They are the people who trust themselves enough to face uncertainty. And that trust is visible. Why people are drawn to confidence. Human beings naturally seek stability. Whenever uncertainty appears, we look for signals that suggest safety. Confidence provides one of those signals. Imagine being on an airplane experiencing turbulence. Would you rather see a calm pilot or a panicked pilot? The answer is obvious. The calm pilot communicates, "I can handle this." And that message immediately reduces anxiety. The same principle applies in everyday life. Confident individuals create psychological safety. Their calmness reassures others. Their certainty reduces tension. And people instinctively respect those who make them feel safe. Confidence is contagious. One of the most fascinating discoveries in psychology is that emotions spread. Confidence spreads. Anxiety spreads. Fear spreads. Calmness spreads. When someone enters a room feeling secure, others often begin feeling more secure as well. This happens because human beings unconsciously mirror emotional states. The confident person influences the emotional atmosphere without saying a word. This is why confidence often feels magnetic. People are responding to an emotional experience, not just a behavior. The difference between confidence and arrogance: many people fear becoming confident because they confuse confidence with arrogance. They worry, if I become more confident, people will think I'm arrogant. But these qualities are completely different. Arrogance is insecurity wearing a mask. It constantly seeks proof. Proof of superiority, proof of importance, proof of status. Arrogant people need others to see them as special. Confident people do not. Confident individuals are comfortable without constant validation. They do not need to dominate conversations. They do not need to win every argument. They do not need to be the smartest person in the room. Their confidence comes from within, not from comparison. Why self-doubt is visible: many people assume they can hide insecurity. Usually they cannot. Self-doubt leaks through behavior. It appears in hesitant speech, excessive apologizing, nervous laughter, avoiding eye contact, over-explaining, seeking reassurance. These behaviors send signals. Not because they are bad, because they reveal uncertainty. And uncertainty influences how people respond. The brain constantly asks, does this person trust themselves? When the answer appears to be no, respect often decreases. Confidence changes behavior. One reason confidence creates respect is because confidence changes how people behave. Confident individuals tend to speak more clearly, move more deliberately, maintain better eye contact, tolerate silence, handle criticism calmly, recover from mistakes quickly. Notice that none of these behaviors require extraordinary talent. They are simply expressions of self-trust. And self-trust is persuasive. Because people naturally trust those who trust themselves. The approval-seeking trap. One of the biggest obstacles to confidence is approval-seeking. Many people unknowingly spend their lives asking, do they like me? Do they agree with me? What do they think of me? This creates emotional dependence. Their confidence becomes tied to external reactions. The problem is that external reactions constantly change. Some people will approve. Others will not. If your confidence depends on approval, your confidence will always be unstable. The most respected people understand something important. Approval is pleasant. But it is not necessary. This mindset creates freedom. And freedom creates confidence. Why confidence is often quiet? Movies often portray confidence as dramatic, loud, dominant, aggressive. Real confidence is usually quieter. Think about the most respected people you know. Many are surprisingly calm. They do not constantly announce their accomplishments. They do not seek attention. They do not try to impress everyone. Their confidence feels relaxed. That relaxation is powerful, because it communicates, I have nothing to prove. And people respect that energy. Confidence and mistakes. One of the strongest indicators of confidence is how someone handles mistakes. Insecure people often panic, defend themselves, make excuses, shift blame. Confident people respond differently. They acknowledge mistakes, learn from them, move forward. Why? Because their identity is not threatened by imperfection. They understand something important. Making a mistake does not make you a failure. This emotional stability increases respect dramatically. People trust individuals who can remain composed when things go wrong. The foundation of confidence at its deepest level, confidence comes from self-trust. Not trust that you will always succeed. Trust that you can handle reality. Trust that you can face challenges. Trust that you can survive criticism. Trust that you can recover from setbacks. This kind of confidence cannot be faked for long, because it comes from experience. Every challenge you survive strengthens it. Every obstacle you overcome reinforces it. Over time, confidence becomes part of who you are. Building confidence from the inside out. Many people try to build confidence by changing how they appear. The more effective approach is changing how they relate to themselves. Confidence grows when you Keep promises to yourself, face fears gradually, accept imperfections, stop seeking constant approval, trust your ability to adapt. These habits create internal certainty. And internal certainty eventually becomes visible externally. The respect signal everyone feels. Perhaps the most powerful thing about confidence is that it rarely needs explanation. People feel it. They feel it in your voice, your posture, your decisions, your reactions, your presence. Confidence creates an invisible message: I trust myself. And because humans naturally seek stability, they often respond with trust of their own. That trust becomes attention. Attention becomes influence. Influence becomes respect. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: the people who command instant respect are not necessarily the most talented or successful people in the room. They are often the people who trust themselves the most. And that self-trust becomes a signal that everyone around them can feel. In the next chapter, we will explore why emotional control is one of the strongest forms of power, and why the calmest person in the room often becomes the most respected. Chapter 3. The power of emotional control. Imagine two people facing the exact same challenge. A difficult conversation. A public criticism. An unexpected setback. The first person immediately becomes emotional. They react impulsively. Their voice rises. Their frustration becomes visible. The second person remains calm. They listen carefully. Think before responding. Maintain composure. Who receives more respect? The answer is obvious. In almost every social environment, emotional control creates authority. This is one of the most powerful psychological principles behind instant respect. People naturally trust individuals who remain steady under pressure. Not because those individuals are emotionless. Because they demonstrate emotional mastery. And emotional mastery is rare. Why emotional stability attracts respect. Human beings are constantly evaluating one another. Not only for intelligence. Not only for competence. But also for stability. At a subconscious level, people ask, can this person handle pressure? Can this person make good decisions during stress? Can this person remain calm when things become difficult? Emotional control answers these questions. And when the answer is yes, respect increases. Because stability creates trust. And trust creates influence. The strongest person is not always the loudest. Many people associate strength with intensity. They imagine powerful individuals as aggressive, dominant, and forceful. Reality often looks different. True strength is frequently quiet. The strongest person in a room is often the person who does not lose control when challenged. The person who can hear criticism without exploding. The person who can tolerate disagreement without becoming defensive. The person who can stay calm while others panic. This kind of strength is deeply impressive. Because it demonstrates internal security. Emotional reactions reveal emotional dependence. One reason emotional control affects respect so strongly is because reactions reveal attachment. Imagine someone receiving minor criticism. Immediately they become defensive, angry, argumentative. What does this communicate? Often it communicates that their self-worth depends on being right. The criticism feels threatening because it challenges their identity. Emotionally stable people respond differently. They may disagree. They may defend their position. But they do so calmly. Because their sense of self remains intact. And people instinctively respect that stability. The leadership effect. Throughout history, leaders have been judged by how they respond during uncertainty. Anyone can appear confident when circumstances are easy. The true test arrives during difficulty. Consider a captain during a storm. Imagine the crew seeing panic in the captain's face. Fear would spread immediately. Now imagine a calm captain. Focused. Composed. Deliberate. Confidence would spread just as quickly. Humans naturally follow emotional signals. The calmest person often becomes the emotional leader of the group, even without formal authority. Why calmness feels powerful. Calmness creates a psychological impression of competence. When someone remains composed under pressure, observers often assume they understand the situation. They have experience, they know what they are doing, they can be trusted. Whether these assumptions are always correct is not the point. The point is that calmness influences perception. People associate emotional stability with capability. This is one reason calm individuals often command respect before proving themselves. The difference between suppression and control. At this point, an important distinction must be made. Emotional control does not mean emotional suppression. These are completely different things. Suppression means ignoring emotions, pretending they do not exist, burying them. Control means experiencing emotions without becoming controlled by them. A person can feel anger, fear, frustration, disappointment and still remain composed. That is emotional intelligence, not the absence of emotion. The management of emotion. Why people trust predictability. Trust grows when people know what to expect. Emotionally reactive individuals often feel unpredictable. Others never know how they will respond. Will they become angry, defensive, overwhelmed? Unpredictability creates uncertainty, and uncertainty weakens trust. Emotionally stable individuals create the opposite effect. People know they will remain thoughtful and composed. This predictability creates safety, and safety creates respect. The respect destroyer. Overreacting. Few things damage authority faster than overreaction. When someone reacts intensely to small problems, observers begin questioning their judgment. The reaction appears larger than the situation. This creates doubt. People start wondering, if they cannot handle this, how will they handle something bigger? Emotional proportionality matters. Highly respected people understand this. They respond to situations according to their actual significance, not according to momentary emotions. Why emotional control is visible. Many people think emotional control is internal. In reality, it is highly visible. It appears through facial expressions, tone of voice, posture, pacing, word choice, reactions to stress. Even when someone says nothing, their emotional state often becomes obvious. Others are constantly reading these signals, often unconsciously. This is why emotional regulation influences first impressions so strongly. People can feel stability before they can measure competence. The ability to pause. One of the simplest signs of emotional control is the ability to pause. Most people react immediately. Someone criticizes them, they respond instantly. Someone challenges them, they argue instantly. Someone disagrees, they defend instantly. Emotionally intelligent people create space. A brief pause. A moment of reflection. This pause may last only a few seconds. Yet it changes everything. Because thoughtful responses almost always outperform emotional reactions. The confidence behind composure. At its core, emotional control is a form of confidence. Not confidence in outcomes. Confidence in yourself. Confidence that you can handle discomfort. Confidence that criticism will not destroy you. Confidence that disagreement does not threaten your worth. When people possess this confidence, they stop reacting to every challenge as if it were an emergency. And that calmness becomes visible. Why respect follows emotional mastery. Think about the people you respect most. Chances are they possess emotional balance. Not perfection. Balance. They may experience frustration, fear, stress. But they rarely allow those emotions to dictate their behavior. This creates reliability. And reliability creates trust. Over time, trust becomes respect. Becoming emotionally unshakable. Emotional control is not something people are born with. It is a skill. A skill developed through practice. Each time you pause before reacting, remain calm during criticism, tolerate discomfort, resist emotional impulses, think before speaking, you strengthen emotional resilience. Gradually, composure becomes natural. And with composure comes authority. The quiet power of self-mastery. Ultimately, people respect emotional control because it represents self-mastery. It signals that a person is not controlled by every emotion, opinion, or circumstance. They remain grounded, centered, stable, and stability is attractive. Because in a world filled with emotional chaos, calmness stands out. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this. The people who command instant respect are not necessarily the smartest, richest, or most successful people in the room. They are often the people who remain calm when everyone else loses composure. Because emotional control communicates a powerful message: I am in charge of myself. And few qualities earn respect faster than that. In the next chapter, we will explore how body language silently communicates authority, and why people often decide how much respect to give you before you ever speak a word. Chapter 4. Body language that commands attention. Before you say a single word, people are already forming opinions about you. Before you introduce yourself. Before you explain your ideas. Before you demonstrate your intelligence. People are watching. And more importantly, they are interpreting. Human beings are experts at reading nonverbal signals. In fact, long before language evolved, body language was one of our primary forms of communication. Even today, the brain processes physical behavior faster than spoken words. This means something important. People often decide how much respect to give you before you ever begin speaking. That decision is heavily influenced by body language. The silent conversation. Every interaction contains two conversations. The first conversation happens through words. The second conversation happens through behavior. Often, the second conversation is more powerful. Imagine someone saying, "I'm very confident," but while speaking they avoid eye contact, fidget constantly, shrink their posture, speak nervously. Which message will people believe? The words or the body language? Almost always, they will believe the body language. Because body language feels more honest. People assume actions reveal what words attempt to hide. Why body language influences respect. The human brain evolved to detect confidence and uncertainty. This ability helped our ancestors identify leaders, allies, threats, trustworthy individuals. Today, the same system remains active. Whenever we meet someone, we unconsciously evaluate posture, movement, eye contact, facial expressions, physical tension. These observations create impressions almost instantly. The process happens so quickly that most people never notice it. Yet it influences respect dramatically. The power of posture. One of the strongest respect signals is posture. Posture communicates how comfortable you are occupying space. People with low confidence often appear physically smaller. They hunch their shoulders, lower their heads, collapse inward, minimize their presence. These behaviors communicate uncertainty. Not intentionally. Psychologically. Confident individuals typically appear different. Their posture is relaxed, open, balanced, not rigid, not exaggerated, simply comfortable. This comfort sends a powerful message: I belong here. And belonging creates authority. Why eye contact matters. Eye contact is one of the strongest social signals in human interaction. Too little eye contact can communicate nervousness, insecurity, discomfort. Too much eye contact can communicate aggression, intimidation, social awkwardness. The goal is balance. Comfortable eye contact communicates confidence. It tells others, I am present, I am engaged, I am not afraid of this interaction. People naturally trust individuals who can maintain relaxed eye contact. Because eye contact reflects emotional stability. The respect signal of stillness. One characteristic appears repeatedly among highly respected individuals: stillness. Many people move constantly when nervous. They tap their feet, adjust their clothing, touch their face, shift excessively. These behaviors often signal anxiety. Highly respected individuals tend to move with greater intention. They are not frozen. They are simply less restless. Their movements appear deliberate. This creates a sense of control. And control creates authority. Fast movements versus deliberate movements. Speed communicates information. When people feel anxious, movements often become faster, more erratic, less controlled. When people feel secure, movements slow down. Not because they are forcing themselves. Because their nervous system is calmer. Deliberate movement communicates, I am not rushing. And rushing often communicates insecurity. Remember, calmness attracts respect. Urgency often reduces it. Facial expressions and authority. Your face constantly communicates emotional information. Others instinctively watch for clues. They notice tension, relaxation, frustration, confidence, discomfort. One common mistake is trying too hard to appear serious. Some people believe authority requires a stern expression. This often creates distance. True authority does not come from looking intimidating. It comes from looking comfortable. A relaxed face communicates confidence far more effectively than a forced expression. Why nervous energy is visible? Many people believe they hide anxiety well. Usually they do not. The body often reveals what the mind tries to conceal. Small behaviors expose nervousness. Excessive nodding, forced smiling, rapid blinking, constant movement, uncomfortable laughter. None of these behaviors make someone weak. But they do communicate uncertainty. And uncertainty affects respect. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. The psychology of space. Highly respected people tend to have a healthy relationship with space. They do not shrink themselves unnecessarily. Nor do they invade other people's space. Instead, they occupy space comfortably. This behavior communicates self-respect. Think about someone sitting confidently in a chair. Relaxed posture. Steady eye contact. Comfortable presence. Now compare that to someone who appears physically withdrawn. The difference is immediately noticeable. And so is the difference in perceived authority. Why presence is physical? Many people think presence is purely mental. In reality, presence is deeply physical. The body often determines how others experience you. When your body communicates calmness, openness, stability, people feel it, even if they cannot explain it. This is why body language often shapes first impressions more than words. The body speaks continuously, whether you intend it or not. Confidence begins in the body. An interesting psychological truth is that confidence works both ways. Confidence influences body language. But body language can also influence confidence. Standing upright, maintaining eye contact, slowing movements, breathing deeply. These behaviors can help signal safety to your nervous system. As your nervous system relaxes, confidence often increases naturally. This creates a positive cycle. Confidence improves body language. Body language reinforces confidence. Authenticity matters most. At this point, it is important to avoid a common mistake. Do not turn body language into a performance. People often learn about posture and eye contact and begin acting. The result feels unnatural. Forced confidence rarely creates respect. Authentic confidence does. The goal is not pretending to be powerful. The goal is becoming comfortable enough that confidence emerges naturally. Authenticity always outperforms performance. The invisible introduction. Every time you enter a room, your body introduces you before your words do. Your posture speaks. Your eyes speak. Your movements speak. Your facial expressions speak. The question is, what are they saying? Are they communicating certainty, or uncertainty? Comfort, or discomfort? Self-respect, or self-doubt? The answer influences how much respect people offer before the conversation even begins. The body language of respect. Ultimately, body language that commands attention is surprisingly simple. It communicates calmness, comfort, presence, self-respect, emotional stability, nothing more. Nothing less. These qualities create a powerful impression because they signal internal confidence. And internal confidence is one of the strongest foundations of respect. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: people often hear your body before they hear your words. Long before you explain who you are, your posture, eye contact, and presence are already telling a story. When that story communicates calm confidence, respect often arrives before the first sentence is spoken. In the next chapter, we will explore why calmness is one of the strongest status signals in human psychology, and why the calmest person in the room often becomes the most influential. Chapter 5. Why calmness looks like strength. Imagine a room filled with tension. A disagreement has erupted. Emotions are rising. Voices are getting louder. People are becoming defensive. In the middle of the chaos, one person remains calm. They listen. They think. They respond carefully. They do not rush. They do not panic. They do not lose control. Almost immediately, something interesting happens. People begin paying attention to them. Their words carry more weight. Their presence feels stronger. Their influence increases. Why? Because calmness is one of the most powerful signals of strength in human psychology. And the people who command instant respect understand this instinctively. The ancient psychology of calmness. Human beings evolved in environments filled with uncertainty. Danger could appear at any moment. During those situations, groups naturally looked for individuals who remained composed. Why? Because panic spreads, but confidence spreads too. When someone stays calm during uncertainty, the brain often interprets that calmness is evidence of competence. The unconscious assumption becomes, if they are calm, they probably know what they are doing. Whether this assumption is always correct is not important. The fact that people make it is what matters. Calmness influences perception. And perception influences respect. Why panic reduces authority? Imagine two pilots flying through severe turbulence. One appears frightened. The other appears calm and focused. Which pilot would inspire more confidence? The answer is obvious. The calm pilot creates safety. The panicked pilot creates fear. The same principle applies in everyday life. People naturally lose confidence in individuals who become overwhelmed by pressure. Because emotional instability creates uncertainty. And uncertainty weakens trust. Calmness signals internal security at its core. Calmness communicates something deeper. It communicates self-trust. The calm person appears to be saying, I can handle this. Not necessarily because they know exactly what will happen, but because they trust themselves to respond effectively. This creates a powerful impression. People respect those who appear capable of facing reality without becoming consumed by it. The difference between calm and passive. Many people misunderstand calmness. They assume calm people are passive, weak, unassertive. This is not true. Calmness is not the absence of strength. It is controlled strength. A calm person can disagree firmly, establish boundaries, make difficult decisions, confront problems directly. The difference is that they do these things without emotional chaos. Their actions are intentional, not reactive. And intentional behavior commands respect. Why calmness feels like confidence? One reason calmness earns respect is because it resembles confidence. Think about insecurity for a moment. Insecure people often rush, overreact, seek reassurance, become defensive, explain excessively. Confident people tend to do the opposite. They move deliberately, tolerate uncertainty, remain composed, think before speaking, trust themselves. As a result, calmness becomes a visible sign of confidence. And confidence naturally attracts respect. Emotional contagion. Psychologists often talk about emotional contagion. The tendency for emotions to spread from person to person. An anxious person can make an entire room anxious. An angry person can create tension throughout a group. But calmness spreads as well. In fact, calmness is often even more powerful. Because calmness creates emotional safety. When people feel safe, they think more clearly. They make better decisions. They become more cooperative. The calm individual often becomes the emotional anchor of the room. And anchors naturally attract respect. The power of deliberate responses. One characteristic appears repeatedly among highly respected individuals. They do not react immediately. They respond deliberately. There is a difference. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. When criticized, reactive people often argue, justify, defend, attack. Calm individuals pause, think, then choose their response carefully. This pause creates authority, because authority comes from control, not impulse. Why calm people appear more competent? Studies repeatedly show that people often associate calmness with competence. Again, this is not always accurate. But it is psychologically common. Observers frequently assume that calm individuals have more experience, possess greater knowledge, understand the situation better, or more trustworthy. This happens because calmness reduces uncertainty, and reducing uncertainty creates confidence in others. The respect hidden in patience. Patience is another expression of calmness. Impatient people often communicate, "I need immediate results." Patient people communicate, "I can tolerate the process." Patience signals emotional maturity. It demonstrates an ability to delay reactions and remain focused on long-term outcomes. This quality is surprisingly rare. And rarity increases value. Why calmness wins arguments? Many people believe arguments are won through force. Through louder voices, stronger emotions, more aggressive behavior. Reality often looks different. The calm person usually appears more credible. Observers naturally trust individuals who remain composed while presenting their ideas. Emotional outbursts may create attention, but calm reasoning creates influence. And influence lasts longer than attention. The relationship between calmness and power. True power rarely needs to announce itself. Think about genuinely powerful individuals. Many are remarkably calm. They do not constantly prove their strength. They do not react to every challenge. They do not seek validation from everyone around them. Why? Because people who feel secure internally have less to prove externally. This creates a fascinating paradox. The less someone needs to demonstrate power, the more powerful they often appear. Developing calmness. Calmness is not something people are born with. It is developed. Every time you pause before reacting, breathe through discomfort, tolerate uncertainty, remain composed during criticism, focus on solutions instead of panic, you strengthen emotional control. Over time, calmness becomes natural, not forced, not performed, natural. And natural calmness commands respect. Calmness in everyday life. The beauty of calmness is that it works everywhere. At work, at home, in relationships, in leadership, in difficult conversations. Whenever pressure appears, calmness becomes a competitive advantage. Because most people lose control when emotions rise. The person who remains centered immediately stands out. The quiet strength everyone notices. Perhaps the greatest misconception about strength is that it must be loud. Real strength is often quiet. It appears in the person who remains composed during conflict. The person who listens before speaking. The person who refuses to be controlled by every emotion. The person who stays grounded while others become reactive. People notice this, even if they cannot explain why. And what they often call respect is simply a response to the stability they feel. The calmest person in the room. When uncertainty increases, people naturally search for stability. When conflict appears, people search for balance. When pressure rises, people search for composure. The individual who provides these qualities often becomes the most respected person in the room. Not because they demanded attention. Not because they forced authority. Because calmness itself became a signal of strength. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: the strongest people are not the ones who control everyone else. They are the ones who control themselves. And when people see someone remain calm under pressure, they instinctively recognize a rare form of power. That recognition often becomes respect. In the next chapter, we will explore the hidden authority of boundaries, and why people who know how to say no often receive more respect than those who constantly say yes. Chapter 6. The hidden authority of boundaries. Imagine two people. The first person says yes to everything. They avoid conflict. They rarely express disagreement. They constantly accommodate other people's wishes. The second person is respectful and kind. But they are also clear. They know what they will accept. They know what they will not accept. They are willing to say no when necessary. Which person usually receives more respect? Most people assume the first person will be liked more. Sometimes they are. But respect often follows the second person. Why? Because boundaries communicate self-worth. And self-worth is one of the strongest foundations of respect. What boundaries really are? Many people misunderstand boundaries. They imagine walls, distance, rejection, control. But healthy boundaries are none of those things. A boundary is simply a limit that protects your time, energy, values, and well-being. It communicates, "This is how I am willing to be treated." Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about defining your own standards. And standards influence how people respond to you. Why people respect boundaries? Human beings constantly look for signals about value. One of the strongest signals is scarcity. Things that appear unlimited often become taken for granted. Things that have limits often become respected. This principle applies to people as well. When someone has no boundaries, they often appear endlessly available, endlessly accommodating, endlessly flexible. Ironically, this can reduce respect. Because unlimited access often lowers perceived value. Boundaries communicate. My time matters. My energy matters. My needs matter. And people naturally respect those messages. The approval-seeking trap. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear disapproval. They worry. What if people get upset? What if they stop liking me? What if I seem selfish? As a result, they say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate behavior they dislike. They sacrifice their own needs to avoid conflict. The problem is that approval-seeking often weakens respect. Because it communicates dependence. The hidden message becomes, "Your opinion matters more than my boundaries." People may appreciate the compliance, but they rarely respect it deeply. Why saying no creates respect? The word, no, is powerful. Not because it is aggressive. Because it demonstrates choice. When someone can say no, they communicate, "I am making decisions based on my values, not my fears." This creates strength. People trust individuals who have standards, even when they do not always agree with those standards. In fact, many highly respected people are respected precisely because they are willing to disappoint others when necessary. Boundaries reveal self-respect. One of the strongest psychological truths is this: people often treat you the way you teach them to treat you. If you tolerate constant disrespect, interruptions, manipulation, or unreasonable demands, people learn that these behaviors are acceptable. Not because they are cruel. Because behavior creates expectations. Boundaries interrupt those expectations. They communicate that behavior is not acceptable. And when communicated calmly, boundaries often increase respect. Because they demonstrate self-respect. The difference between aggression and boundaries. Many people confuse boundaries with aggression. The difference is important. Aggression seeks to control others. Boundaries seek to protect yourself. Aggression says, "You must behave exactly how I want." Boundaries say, "If this behavior continues, I will respond differently." One focuses on controlling others. The other focuses on personal responsibility. Healthy boundaries do not require anger. They require clarity. Why weak boundaries create resentment? Something interesting happens when people constantly ignore their own boundaries. At first, they feel helpful, generous, supportive. But over time, resentment often appears. Why? Because they keep saying yes when they want to say no. Eventually, frustration builds. Not because others are asking too much. Because they are giving more than they genuinely want to give. Strong boundaries prevent resentment. They create honesty. And honesty creates healthier relationships. The respect of predictability. Boundaries make people predictable. Others know where they stand. They know what behavior is acceptable. They know what behavior is not. This predictability creates trust. And trust creates respect. People may not always like a person's boundaries. But they often respect the consistency. Because consistency signals integrity. Why highly respected people are comfortable disappointing others. One of the biggest differences between respected individuals and approval seekers is their relationship with disappointment. Approval seekers try to avoid disappointing anyone. Respected individuals understand something important. Disappointing people is sometimes unavoidable. If you have goals, values, priorities, and standards, someone will occasionally be unhappy with your decisions. This is normal. Trying to avoid all disappointment usually leads to self-betrayal. And self-betrayal weakens confidence. The confidence behind boundaries. At their core, boundaries require confidence. Not confidence that everyone will approve. Confidence that you can handle disapproval. This distinction changes everything. People with weak boundaries often fear negative reactions. People with strong boundaries trust themselves enough to tolerate them. That emotional independence creates authority. Because independence communicates strength. Boundaries and leadership. Every effective leader understands boundaries. Leaders must prioritize resources, make difficult decisions, protect standards, maintain focus. Without boundaries, leadership becomes impossible. The same principle applies in personal life. People who command respect understand where their responsibilities begin and end. They do not try to please everyone. They try to remain aligned with their values. And that alignment attracts respect. Why boundaries feel uncomfortable. At first, many people experience guilt when they begin setting boundaries. This is normal. Especially if they spent years prioritizing other people's comfort over their own. At first, saying no feels uncomfortable. Speaking up feels uncomfortable. Protecting your time feels uncomfortable. But discomfort does not mean something is wrong. Often it means you are learning a new skill. Over time, healthy boundaries begin to feel natural. And the guilt fades. The quiet power of self-respect. Ultimately, boundaries are not about rules. They are about self-respect. Every boundary communicates a simple message. I value myself enough to protect what matters. People notice this. Even if they never say it. Because self-respect influences behavior. Behavior influences perception. And perception influences respect. The people who are hard to manipulate. Manipulation often succeeds where boundaries are weak. People who fear disapproval become easy to pressure. Easy to guilt. Easy to control. Strong boundaries create protection. Not because they make someone stubborn. Because they make someone clear. Clarity reduces manipulation. And people naturally respect individuals who know where they stand. The authority hidden in a simple word. Many people spend years searching for confidence, influence, authority, respect. Sometimes it begins with a single word: no. Not an angry no. Not a defensive no. A calm, respectful, confident no. Because every healthy no protects a more meaningful yes. A yes to your values. A yes to your priorities. A yes to your self-respect. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: people do not respect you because you always make them happy. They respect you because you demonstrate that your values, time, and energy matter too. And few things communicate self-worth more clearly than a person who can set boundaries without guilt and maintain them without fear. In the next chapter, We will explore why some voices instantly command attention, and the subtle vocal habits that make people listen the moment you begin speaking. Chapter 7. Why some voices carry more weight. Have you ever noticed that some people speak and everyone listens? Not because they are famous. Not because they are the boss. Not because they are the loudest person in the room. Their voice simply carries weight. The moment they begin speaking, attention shifts toward them. People listen more carefully. Interruptions become less frequent. Their words seem more important. Why does this happen? The answer has very little to do with vocabulary, and much more to do with psychology. Because people do not merely listen to words. They listen to signals. And your voice is constantly sending them. The voice is a status signal. Long before humans developed complex societies, vocal communication played an important role in survival. The human brain learned to gather information from sound. Not just information about meaning. Information about the speaker. The brain asks questions such as, is this person confident? Is this person nervous? Is this person trustworthy? Is this person calm? Is this person emotionally stable? These judgments happen automatically, often within seconds. This means your voice influences how people perceive you before they fully process what you are saying. Why tone matters more than most people realize. Many people focus entirely on content. They think, if I say the right thing, people will listen. Content matters. But delivery matters too. Imagine someone saying, I know what I'm talking about. Now imagine those words spoken nervously, rapidly, with uncertainty. The message loses power. Now imagine the same sentence delivered calmly, clearly, with confidence. The words instantly feel more believable. The content stayed the same. The delivery changed everything. The psychology of vocal confidence. People often associate confidence with certainty. And one of the strongest expressions of certainty is vocal stability. Confident voices tend to be steady, clear, deliberate, controlled. Insecure voices often become rushed, hesitant, overly soft, inconsistent. This is not because insecure people are less intelligent. It is because anxiety affects communication. The nervous system influences the voice, and people unconsciously respond to those vocal signals. Why speaking slowly increases authority. One of the most common habits that reduce respect is rushing. When people feel nervous, they often speak faster. Their words begin chasing each other. Sentences become crowded. Thoughts become difficult to follow. Fast speech often communicates urgency, and sometimes insecurity. Highly respected individuals frequently speak more slowly. Not painfully slowly. Deliberately. They give ideas room to breathe. This creates a powerful impression. The hidden message becomes, I am not worried about being heard. And that message increases authority. The power of strategic pauses. Many people fear silence. The moment a pause appears, they rush to fill it. But respected communicators understand something important. Silence can strengthen communication. A pause creates emphasis. A pause communicates confidence. A pause gives listeners time to process. Most importantly, a pause demonstrates comfort. Comfort with silence is often interpreted as confidence. Discomfort with silence is often interpreted as nervousness. Why nervous voices lose influence. When people become anxious, their voices change. Pitch rises. Speech speeds up. Words become less clear. Breathing becomes shallow. These changes are normal, but they affect perception. Listeners often interpret vocal tension as emotional tension, and emotional tension reduces authority. The goal is not eliminating nervousness completely. The goal is learning how to remain composed despite it. Volume and respect. Many people assume louder voices command more respect. This is only partially true. Excessive volume can actually reduce authority, because it may appear aggressive or compensatory. The most respected voices are rarely the loudest. They are usually the clearest, the most controlled, the most deliberate. Confidence does not need to shout. It simply needs to be heard. Why certainty sounds different? Think about someone giving directions they know well. Their voice is clear, direct, comfortable. Now imagine someone guessing. Their voice often becomes tentative, hesitant, uncertain. The difference is noticeable. Confidence changes vocal patterns, and listeners instinctively recognize those patterns. This is why certainty often sounds persuasive, even before evidence appears. The hidden power of breathing. One of the most overlooked aspects of communication is breathing. Breathing affects vocal stability, pacing, clarity, confidence. Shallow breathing creates tension. Deep breathing creates steadiness. Many respected speakers appear confident simply because they breathe calmly. Their nervous system remains regulated, and that regulation becomes audible. The voice reveals emotional state, whether we realize it or not. Why over-explaining weakens authority? People who seek approval often explain too much. They add unnecessary details, extra justifications, additional qualifications. The hidden message becomes, "Please believe me." Highly respected communicators usually do the opposite. They make their point, then stop. This brevity communicates confidence, because confidence trusts the message. Insecurity keeps adding words. The voice of leadership. Leadership often begins with communication, and communication begins with voice. Think about effective leaders. Many share similar vocal characteristics: calmness, clarity, consistency, deliberate pacing, emotional control. These traits create trust, because trust grows when people feel stable, and stability is often heard before it is seen. Why people listen to certain voices? The truth is that people rarely listen only to words. They listen to certainty, presence, confidence, calmness, self-belief. All of these qualities are communicated through voice. A strong voice does not mean a perfect voice. It means a voice aligned with confidence and authenticity. People respond to that alignment, often without realizing it. Developing a voice that commands attention. A respected voice is not something people are born with. It is developed. Each time you slow your speech, breathe deeply, tolerate pauses, speak clearly, stop over-explaining, trust your message, your voice becomes stronger, not louder, stronger. And strength attracts attention. The authority hidden in simplicity. Many people try to sound impressive. They use complex language, long explanations, sophisticated vocabulary. Yet the most respected communicators often sound surprisingly simple. Why? Because clarity creates trust, and trust creates respect. People are more impressed by someone who communicates clearly than someone who communicates elaborately. Simplicity is a sign of mastery. The voice people remember. At the end of the day, people may forget your exact words, but they often remember how your voice made them feel. Did it communicate certainty, calmness, presence, trustworthiness? Those emotional impressions remain, and emotional impressions shape respect. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: the voices that command the most attention are rarely the loudest voices. They are the calmest, the clearest, the most deliberate. Because when a person speaks as though they trust their own message, others often begin trusting it too. And that trust becomes respect. In the next chapter, we will uncover the subtle status signals most people miss, and why tiny behaviors can dramatically increase or decrease the amount of respect you receive. Chapter 8. The status signals most people miss. Most people believe status is obvious. They think status comes from wealth, job titles, popularity, education, social influence. While these things can affect status, they are not the whole story. In reality, people constantly communicate status through subtle behaviors, tiny actions, small habits, almost invisible signals. And often, these signals influence respect more than achievements. Why? Because most people never see your resume. Most people never know your accomplishments. But everyone experiences your behavior. And behavior communicates status continuously. What status really means? When people hear the word status, they often think about hierarchy. Who is above whom? Who has more power? Who has more influence? Psychologically, status is simpler. Status is largely about perceived value. The brain constantly evaluates. How much confidence does this person have? How comfortable are they with themselves? How much influence do they seem to possess? These judgments happen quickly. And they are heavily influenced by subtle social signals. The highest status signal. Self-validation. One of the strongest status signals is self-validation. Most people constantly look outside themselves for approval. They seek praise, agreement, reassurance, recognition. There is nothing wrong with enjoying these things. The problem begins when they become necessary. People who command respect often validate themselves first. Their confidence does not depend entirely on external reactions. The hidden message becomes, I know who I am. That certainty creates authority. Because people naturally respect those who are not emotionally dependent on constant approval. Why neediness lowers status? Neediness is one of the fastest ways to reduce perceived status. Neediness appears when someone constantly seeks attention, validation, reassurance, acceptance. The issue is not wanting connection. Everyone wants connection. The issue is dependence. Dependence communicates. My emotional state depends on your response. People instinctively sense this. And it often weakens respect. Confidence communicates independence. Neediness communicates reliance. The difference is significant. The status signal of patience. Patience is often misunderstood. Many people see patience as passive. In reality, patience frequently signals strength. Think about a person who constantly rushes. They seem anxious, pressured, desperate for results. Now think about someone who moves deliberately. They are willing to wait, willing to let things unfold. The second person often appears more powerful. Why? Because patience communicates abundance. The hidden message becomes, I am not desperate. And desperation almost always lowers perceived status. Why desperation repels respect? Desperation creates pressure. People can feel it. Whether in business, relationships, friendships, or social situations. Desperation says, I need this outcome. Confidence says, I prefer this outcome. That difference changes everything. People respect preferences. They often distrust desperation. Because desperation communicates fear. And fear reduces authority. The ability to stay unaffected. One subtle status signal separates highly respected individuals from everyone else. They are difficult to emotionally control. This does not mean they lack feelings. It means they do not react to everything. A rude comment, a disagreement, a criticism, a rejection. These experiences may affect them, but they do not dominate them. Their emotional center remains stable, and stability creates status, because emotional independence creates power. Why highly respected people do not chase attention? Many people spend enormous energy trying to be noticed, trying to stand out, trying to impress, trying to gain approval. Ironically, this often reduces respect. Why? Because chasing attention communicates, I need attention. Highly respected individuals usually focus elsewhere. They focus on purpose, contribution, goals, values. As a result, attention often comes naturally. People are attracted to those who are not obsessed with attracting people. The hidden authority of listening. Many assume status is demonstrated through talking. But listening can be an even stronger signal. Insecure people often dominate conversations. They feel compelled to prove themselves. Confident people are comfortable listening. They do not fear being overlooked. They know their value does not disappear when they are silent. This creates a powerful impression. Because genuine listening communicates security. And security attracts respect. Why overreacting lowers status? Imagine someone receives minor criticism. Immediately they become angry, defensive, argumentative. Observers notice, and many unconsciously think, that person is emotionally fragile. Now imagine someone who receives the same criticism calmly. They listen, evaluate, respond thoughtfully. The second person appears stronger. Because emotional stability is a status signal, the ability to remain composed under pressure communicates confidence. The power of selective attention. Highly respected people are often selective about what receives their attention. They do not react to every opinion, every insult, every disagreement, every distraction. This selectivity communicates value, because attention is a resource, and people who manage it carefully often appear more influential. The hidden message becomes, not everything deserves my energy. That mindset creates authority. Why comfort with silence signals status? Many people become uncomfortable when conversations pause. They rush to fill the silence. They explain more, talk faster, add unnecessary details. Confident individuals often tolerate silence comfortably. This matters because silence communicates emotional security. It suggests, I do not need constant noise to feel comfortable. That comfort influences perception. People often associate calm silence with confidence and authority. The status signal of consistency. Consistency is one of the most underrated forms of influence. People trust what they can predict. Someone who constantly changes their behavior based on circumstances appears unstable. Someone who remains consistent appears reliable. Reliability creates trust. Trust creates respect. Respect creates influence. The process is remarkably simple, yet many people overlook it. Why genuine confidence requires nothing at the highest level. Status comes from freedom. Freedom from needing approval, validation, attention, recognition, constant reassurance. This freedom creates calmness, and calmness creates presence. When people no longer depend on external validation, they stop performing. They stop proving. They stop chasing. And paradoxically, respect often increases. The invisible signals that shape perception every day. People send signals they never notice. Signals through reactions, patience, attention, listening, emotional control, self-validation. These behaviors quietly influence how others perceive them. More than clothing, more than titles, more than achievements. Because behavior feels authentic, and authenticity shapes trust. The respect hidden in self-sufficiency. Ultimately, the highest status signal is self-sufficiency. Not isolation, not arrogance, self-sufficiency. The ability to stand comfortably on your own emotional foundation. The ability to appreciate approval without depending on it. The ability to value connection without needing validation. The ability to remain grounded regardless of circumstances. People feel this, even if they cannot explain it. And what they often call presence, or charisma, is frequently just self-sufficiency in action. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: the people who command instant respect are not constantly trying to prove their value. Their behavior quietly communicates that they already know it. And when someone no longer needs the world to confirm their worth, the world often begins treating them as worthy. That is one of the most powerful status signals of all. In the next chapter, we will explore the respect trap, why chasing approval almost always destroys the very respect people hope to gain. Chapter 9. The respect trap, why chasing approval never works. Most people want to be respected. There is nothing wrong with that. Respect is one of the most fundamental human desires. It makes us feel valued, acknowledged, significant. The problem begins when respect becomes a pursuit. Because the harder people chase approval, the further respect often moves away. This is one of the strangest paradoxes in human psychology. The people who desperately want respect often receive the least of it. The people who need it the least often receive the most. Why does this happen? Because approval seeking sends signals. And those signals quietly shape how others perceive us. The human need for approval. From childhood, most people learn that approval feels good. Parents praise good behavior. Teachers reward achievement. Friends offer acceptance. Society encourages validation. Over time, many people unconsciously develop a belief: my value depends on other people's opinions. This belief becomes dangerous because it places self-worth in someone else's hands. And whenever self-worth depends on external validation, confidence becomes fragile. Why approval seeking is so visible? Many people think they hide their need for approval. Usually they do not. Approval seeking reveals itself through behaviors such as constantly agreeing, avoiding disagreement, apologizing excessively, seeking reassurance over explaining decisions, fearing criticism. Each behavior communicates uncertainty, not intentionally. Psychologically, the hidden message becomes, I need you to approve of me. And dependence rarely inspires respect. Respect and independence. One of the strongest foundations of respect is independence. Not isolation. Not arrogance. Emotional independence. The ability to maintain self-worth regardless of external reactions. People naturally respect individuals who can stand on their own opinions, who can tolerate disagreement, who can survive criticism without collapsing emotionally. Why? Because independence communicates strength, and strength attracts respect. The difference between being liked and being respected: many people confuse being liked with being respected. The two are related, but they are not the same. Someone can be liked because they are agreeable, helpful, pleasant, easygoing, yet still receive little respect. Respect operates differently. Respect often grows from qualities such as integrity, confidence, consistency, competence, emotional stability. Trying to maximize likability can sometimes reduce respect, especially when it causes people to abandon their own values. The cost of constant agreement. Approval seekers often become experts at agreement. They adapt to every room, match every opinion, avoid every conflict. At first, this may seem socially effective, but over time, something happens. People stop seeing them clearly. Why? Because they never reveal who they really are. Respect requires authenticity. And authenticity requires the courage to occasionally disagree. The willingness to say, I see it differently, without fear, without hostility, without apology. Why people respect conviction? Human beings admire conviction, not blind stubbornness. Conviction. The ability to stand by your beliefs while remaining open to learning. Conviction communicates self-trust. It says, I have thought carefully about this. People naturally gravitate toward individuals who possess this quality, because conviction creates stability, and stability creates trust. The approval-seeking cycle. Approval seeking often becomes a cycle. It begins with insecurity. The person seeks validation. Validation provides temporary relief, but only temporary. Soon they need more, and more, and more. The dependence grows. Like any dependence, it eventually weakens confidence. Because confidence becomes externally controlled, true confidence breaks this cycle. It develops from within. Why criticism feels so dangerous? People who depend heavily on approval often fear criticism. Not because criticism is painful. Because criticism threatens their source of self-worth. If your value depends on approval, disapproval feels devastating. Emotionally independent people respond differently. They may dislike criticism, but they are not destroyed by it. Why? Because their worth is not tied to universal acceptance. They understand something important: you can be criticized and still be valuable. That belief creates resilience. And resilience earns respect. The courage to be disliked. One of the defining traits of highly respected people is their willingness to be misunderstood, to be disagreed with, to be disliked by some people. This does not mean they enjoy conflict. It means they accept reality. No matter who you are, someone will disagree with you, someone will criticize you, someone will misunderstand you. Trying to avoid all negative reactions is impossible. And attempting it usually destroys authenticity. Why boundaries threaten approval seekers? Approval seekers often struggle with boundaries. Because boundaries create risk. The risk of disappointing others. The risk of rejection. The risk of conflict. As a result, they sacrifice their needs, their priorities, their values. The immediate reward is approval. The long-term cost is self-respect. And without self-respect, external respect becomes difficult to sustain. The psychology of authenticity. Authenticity is powerful because it removes performance. The authentic person is not constantly asking, "How should I act?" Instead they ask, "What is true?" This simplicity creates confidence. Because authenticity eliminates the exhausting task of managing everyone's perception. And people trust authenticity, even when they do not agree with it. Why respected people rarely chase respect? This is perhaps the greatest paradox of all. Highly respected people rarely spend much time thinking about respect. They focus on their values, their character, their actions, their goals. Respect becomes a byproduct, not the objective. This shift changes everything. Because people who chase respect often appear needy. People who focus on principles often appear strong. The freedom of self-approval. At some point, every person must answer an important question: whose approval matters most? Many people spend years giving that power away. To strangers, friends, coworkers, family members, social media, public opinion. But lasting confidence begins when self-approval becomes stronger than external approval. Not because other opinions stop mattering, but because they stop defining your worth. The most respected person in the room. The most respected person in a room is often not the loudest, the wealthiest, the most popular, the most admired. It is often the person who remains true to themselves. The person who does not change their values for acceptance. The person who can tolerate disagreement without losing confidence. The person who respects themselves enough to remain authentic. That authenticity creates trust. And trust creates respect. Escaping the respect trap. The respect trap convinces people that they must earn everyone's approval. But this goal is impossible. The more practical goal is different. Become someone you respect. Act with integrity. Maintain your standards. Honor your values. Develop emotional independence. Then allow others to respond however they choose. Ironically, this mindset often attracts the respect people were chasing all along. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: respect begins to grow when approval stops being a necessity. The moment you stop asking the world to confirm your worth, you become free to live according to your own values. And that freedom communicates a kind of confidence that people instinctively respect. Because the strongest people are not those who are loved by everyone. They are the ones who no longer need to be. In the next chapter, we will explore how highly respected people remain unshakable under pressure, and why adversity often reveals who truly commands respect. Chapter 10. Becoming unshakable under pressure. Anyone can appear confident when life is easy. Anyone can remain calm when everything is going according to plan. Anyone can seem strong when there are no obstacles. The true test of character appears when pressure arrives. When criticism comes. When failure happens. When uncertainty increases. When things stop going your way. This is where respect is truly earned. Because pressure reveals what comfort conceals. And highly respected people possess one quality that separates them from everyone else: they remain unshakable under pressure. Not because they never feel fear. Not because they never experience doubt. But because they refuse to let pressure control them. Why pressure reveals character. Imagine squeezing a tube of toothpaste. Whatever is inside comes out. Pressure works the same way with people. When life becomes difficult, hidden traits emerge. Patience or impatience. confidence or insecurity, discipline or impulsiveness, calmness or panic. This is why adversity often changes how people perceive us. Pressure reveals who we truly are. And people pay attention. The respect test. Most people think respect is built during success. In reality, respect is often built during difficulty. Anyone can act professionally when things are easy. The challenge comes when a project fails, someone criticizes you, a relationship ends, expectations collapse, uncertainty grows. How you respond during these moments tells people far more about your character than your achievements ever will. Why emotional resilience creates authority. One of the strongest forms of strength is emotional resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover, to adapt, to continue moving forward despite setbacks. Highly respected people are rarely those who avoid failure. They are the people who recover from failure effectively. Every successful person experiences setbacks. The difference is that resilient people refuse to let setbacks define them. And that refusal creates respect. The problem with fragility: modern life often encourages comfort. Comfort is pleasant. But too much comfort creates fragility. Fragile people struggle when reality fails to match expectations. Small problems feel enormous. Minor criticism feels devastating. Unexpected challenges feel overwhelming. This fragility reduces confidence. Because confidence requires evidence. Evidence that you can survive difficulty. Without difficulty, that evidence never develops. Why challenges build confidence? Many people think confidence comes from success. Partly true. But deeper confidence comes from survival. From facing challenges and discovering, I can handle more than I thought. Every obstacle overcome becomes proof. Proof that you can adapt. Proof that you can recover. Proof that you can continue. This evidence becomes the foundation of real confidence. And real confidence creates respect. The calm mind under pressure. Pressure affects everyone. Even highly respected people. The difference is not what they feel. The difference is how they respond. Most people react automatically. Pressure arrives. Emotions take over. Decisions become impulsive. Highly respected individuals create space between emotion and action. They pause, observe, evaluate, then respond. This ability creates enormous influence. Because clear thinking becomes increasingly valuable as pressure increases. Why criticism is a leadership test? Nothing exposes emotional maturity faster than criticism. Criticism challenges the ego. It creates discomfort. It threatens identity. This is why many people become defensive immediately. But highly respected individuals often respond differently. They ask, "Is there something useful here?" They separate the message from the emotion. They learn when learning is appropriate. They ignore what deserves to be ignored. This balanced approach creates authority. Because authority requires emotional control. The power of perspective. Pressure becomes dangerous when people lose perspective. A temporary setback begins feeling permanent. A single mistake begins feeling catastrophic. A criticism begins feeling like rejection. Perspective changes everything. Resilient individuals understand. Setbacks or temporary mistakes are normal. Discomfort passes. Challenges create growth. This perspective keeps them grounded. And grounded people are difficult to shake. Why highly respected people focus on solutions when pressure increases? Most people focus on problems. They replay what went wrong. Analyze the unfairness. Complain about circumstances. Highly respected people focus differently. They ask, "What can I do next?" This question shifts attention toward action. And action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates respect. The sequence is remarkably simple. The relationship between responsibility and respect. One characteristic appears repeatedly among respected individuals. They take responsibility. Not for everything, but for their response. They understand an important truth. You cannot control every event. But you can control your reaction. This mindset creates power. Because responsibility places influence back into your hands. Blame gives power away. Responsibility takes it back. Why complaining weakens authority? Everyone complains occasionally. That is normal. But chronic complaining creates a problem. It communicates helplessness. The hidden message becomes, my circumstances control me. Highly respected people may acknowledge difficulties, but they rarely become trapped in victimhood. They focus on adaptation, adjustment, improvement. This mindset attracts respect because it demonstrates personal power. The strength of consistency. Pressure often changes people. Their values disappear. Their standards collapse. Their behavior becomes unpredictable. Highly respected people strive for consistency. Their principles remain intact even during difficult moments. This consistency creates trust. People know what to expect, and predictability strengthens respect. Why fear does not disqualify you? Many people misunderstand courage. They believe courageous people feel no fear. That is a myth. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action despite fear. Every respected person experiences uncertainty, doubt, anxiety, concern. The difference is that they continue moving forward anyway. They refuse to let fear become the decision maker. Becoming mentally strong. Mental strength develops the same way physical strength develops. Through resistance. Each challenge becomes an opportunity. Each setback becomes training. Each difficult moment becomes practice. Over time, resilience grows. The mind becomes stronger, and stronger minds create calmer reactions. Calmer reactions create greater respect. The unshakable identity. Perhaps the most powerful form of resilience comes from identity. Highly respected people do not base their identity entirely on outcomes. They do not think, if I fail, I am a failure. Instead they think, I experienced a failure. The distinction matters. One attacks identity. The other describes an event. When identity remains stable, pressure loses much of its power. The people we respect most. Think about the people you admire. The people you trust. The people whose opinions matter. Chances are they have endured challenges, faced setbacks, experienced criticism, yet remained grounded. Their strength was not built during easy times. It was built through adversity. And that history became visible in their character. The ultimate test of respect. Respect reaches its highest level when people know you can handle pressure. When they know you can remain composed during uncertainty. When they know criticism will not break you. When they know failure will not stop you. That confidence creates trust. And trust creates influence. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: anyone can appear strong when conditions are perfect. The people who command lasting respect are those who remain steady when conditions are not. They face pressure without panic, criticism without collapse, failure without surrender. Because true strength is not revealed by comfort. It is revealed by adversity. And adversity is where respect becomes real. In the next and final chapter, we will explore the identity of highly respected people, and the deeper mindset that causes respect to follow them wherever they go. Chapter 11. The universal identity of influence. Reflecting on our journey thus far, a single inquiry remains: why do particular individuals attract respect regardless of their location? Their presence is felt beyond specific boundaries, beyond the limits of a career path, beyond the comfort of familiar circles. It is a constant everywhere. In every new city, in every diverse office, in every social dynamic, through every season of existence. Though their environment may shift, their impact never wavers. How do we define this power? The secret is not found in nonverbal cues, or outward displays of confidence, or even the mastery of speech, or the regulation of feelings. While these traits are vital, they do not represent the core. The ultimate source is identity. Because external habits transform only when the internal self transforms. And identity governs all things. The unseen engine of conduct every individual lives by an inner narrative. A story regarding their essence. What they are worthy of. The extent of their potential. What they hold as personal truth. This narrative defines the identity. And that identity dictates behavior automatically. Consider this. An individual who perceives themselves as fragile acts differently than one who feels unshakable. An individual who feels insignificant acts differently than one who knows their worth. An individual who feels helpless acts differently than one who realizes their capability. Action changes only when the identity is rewritten. The illusion of behavioral fixes many attempt growth by adjusting their surface actions. They try to perform with confidence, speak with certainty, stand with authority. This might offer fleeting results. But eventually the true self reappears. Why? Because behavior is not the root. Identity is. If a person carries the hidden conviction, I am insufficient, no amount of feigned assurance will heal the rift. Conduct may shift temporarily, but the self-perception lingers. And eventually, that self-image drags behavior back into its usual orbit. The internal genesis of respect, a fundamental psychological principle, states, the manner in which you treat yourself serves as an instruction manual for others. Those who attract immediate respect typically possess a solid inner core, not due to feelings of elitism, but because of an inherent sense of value. This conviction guides every facet of life. The sound of their voice, the way they move, how they process disapproval, how they define their limits, how they stand firm under duress. Visible behaviors are merely the shadows cast by an internal identity. The respected mindset. People of high influence often share specific psychological anchors. They might not name them, but they live them. They understand that worth is not a prize awarded by others. Human errors do not equal failure. Disapproval is not a threat to survival. Obstacles are within their power to meet. Limits are necessary for health. Self-respect is a non-negotiable standard. These convictions generate certainty, not as a performance, but as a reality. One that everyone else instinctively feels. The self-respect prerequisite. Many wait for the world to offer respect before they grant it to themselves. They believe, I will value myself once others show appreciation. I will respect myself once I have attained success. I will trust myself once I have provided proof. This logic is flawed. Respect actually travels in the opposite direction. It starts within, and then radiates outward. Your internal standards set the stage for how the world interacts with you. The ego versus healthy identity. It is vital to distinguish ego from a stable sense of self. Ego claims, I am superior to others. Healthy identity claims, I am aware of my worth. Ego feeds on comparison. Healthy identity is independent. Ego requires dominance. Healthy identity requires only awareness. Often, the most respected figures are those with the least ego. They simply have a foundation that cannot be shaken. Integrity is a respect signal. Identity is validated through steady action. When conduct is a mirror of personal values, integrity is established. Integrity involves aligning actions with promises, upholding personal obligations, behaving with consistency, staying true to oneself. People admire integrity because it eliminates ambiguity. It provides a predictable baseline. And that trust is the cornerstone of all genuine respect. The release of self-acceptance. Personal power originates from accepting one's reality. Not from being flawless, but from acceptance. Influential people understand they are works in progress. They have errors, vulnerabilities, constraints, but they do not waste vitality concealing these facts. They admit them, extract lessons from them, evolve through them. This stance offers emotional autonomy, and that autonomy generates confidence. The weight of authenticity. Society expends massive energy on the pursuit of looking impressive, on conformity, on seeking approval, on satisfying external demands. Authentic individuals take a different path. They are not without fault. They are simply genuine, and reality is inherently compelling. Because truth removes the need for inner struggle, the individual is no longer wrestling to wear a mask. They are simply committed to their own growth. This truth breeds trust. And trust breeds respect. The constant self. Eventually, everyone faces trial by fire. Blame is assigned. Plans fall apart. Alliances shift. Doors close. Stress mounts. Those who keep their influence have a locked identity. They are self-aware. Their sense of worth does not rise or fall with a win, or a loss, or a single comment. Because who they are is independent of what happens. This consistency provides resilience. And resilience provides a reason for others to follow. Cultivating your own regard. The target is not to win everyone over. That is a futile aim. Conflict is inevitable. Blame is inevitable. Confusion is inevitable. The actual goal is different. Become an individual you can admire. Abide by your principles. Master your emotional world. Adopt integrity. Establish certainty. Respect your own boundaries. Live with truth. When you succeed at this, respect from the outside becomes an echo, not the call. The core truth of respect. At the start, we asked why some possess instant gravitas. The conclusion is simple. Respect is not a maneuver, not a tactic, not an act. It is the fruit of certain traits: unshakable confidence, emotional mastery, tranquility, genuine truth, clear boundaries, toughness, internal regard. These traits build a presence that others decode instantly. And when they decode it, respect follows without effort. Concluding thoughts. Adversaries are a part of life. Mistakes in perception will happen. Harsh words will be spoken. That is simply reality. Universal approval is not the prize. The prize is respecting yourself. Because when you do, the need for external validation dies. Disapproval loses its sting. You stop playing small. You stop being defensive, and a transformation occurs. Your carriage changes. Your communication changes. Your mental processing changes. Your entire existence changes. The world observes this, not because you asked it to, but because your actions signal that you are already settled. The final perspective. True leaders do not chase the respect of others. They focus on their own character, truth, and emotional foundation. Respect is the gravity generated by that identity. Construct the self first. The external results will arrive in time.